And according to a stunning Pew Research Center study, the number of religiously unaffiliated Americans has grown to 56 million. While Christianity remains this country's dominant faith, the ranks are declining as secularism is on the rise. Joining us to discuss this trend is Reverend Jennifer Crumpton. She is the author of Femme Evangelical, and she's here in our New York studio. Reverend Crumpton, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So I have to say, having grown up in the church and still participating in church on a personal level, these numbers are surprising and in some ways disheartening. One of them, just to name one, is the percentage of adults who describe themselves as Christians has dropped nearly 8% just in the last 7 years. What factors are at play here?
Well, you know, Debbie, I think that, Christianity is all about a redemptive paradigm. And a lot of people, especially young generations, are starting to find that the Christian doctrine no longer reflects their values. It doesn't necessarily make them feel redeemed. I mean, if you look at our country right now, over half of Americans support gay marriage. People are...
I'm going to interrupt you right there. Are you saying then that faith and supporting gay marriage is mutually exclusive? Are you explaining that as a reason?
I don't think that it is, but I do believe that in some churches it's still a big issue that's still being debated, or in more fundamentalist churches it's something that they feel they'll never be able to square with their theology. So especially young people who see Jesus as the arbiter of freedom, equality, wholeness, this redemptive paradigm that allows all people to be at the table. That's the Jesus they're looking for, and they're not necessarily finding it in some churches.
Well, it's very interesting because in this report, and there's many facets to the report, it's not just necessarily a separation from church, as you would just describe, but also from faith in general, which would be a little bit different. It'd be easy for someone to espouse the teachings of Jesus, but not necessarily embrace organized religion, if you will. So there's still another factor at play here, wouldn't you say?
I feel like this is such a complex issue, and the Pew reports do such a great job of reporting about what people are thinking and feeling, but there's so many layers to this, and this is why I wrote my book, Femme Evangelical, especially for women. They're leaving the church because so many churches still preach that women are secondary to men, or they can't hold certain leadership positions in the church and shouldn't be doing certain things in society, or maybe trying to tell them what type of health care or birth control that they should be using. And a lot of women and young men just don't really subscribe to that type of hierarchy anymore. People are really looking for ways to make changes in the world, especially millennials. They're really
but
social
in the past,
justice
Jennifer,
oriented.
very often when there have been those kinds of disagreements, those types of philosophical disagreements with theology, what has happened is people have just split off and created other churches. Yes, right. That's why we have all these many different thousands of denominations, because people just then found another place to exercise their faith, as opposed to leaving faith altogether. Another part of the report said that 23% of those in this study considered themselves to be unaffiliated with any religion. Only 21% considered themselves to be affiliated with Catholicism, 15% with mainline Protestants, as mainline Protestant. Say it.
Protestants.
Protestants.
Yeah,
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I just couldn't do it. So more are saying they're unaffiliated with any religion than these two huge faiths in this country. I want to talk about Catholicism because it has really taken a big hit. Is it those fundamental beliefs, those core beliefs, that you think is the issue here?
I think it is, Debbie. And, we have this wonderful new Pope Francis. He's so cutting edge. When you look at him compared to the Catholicism of the past, he's really pulling out that social justice strain of Catholicism that the nuns are especially famous for promoting. And he's going out and he's talking about bringing everyone to the table, restoring people to community. People love that. But his PR has not quite worked completely at this point, because the day-to-day is very different than the Pope making beautiful statements. 98% of Catholic women who are having sex do indeed use birth control. They don't want, a hierarchy of men telling them how to take care of their bodies and how to plan their families. There's an LGBTQ issue with the Catholic Church. The Pope has softened on it, but day to day, there's only very few parishes that are actually extremely welcoming.
I want to talk about the cultural aspect of this, because it would seem that it says 24% of the white Americans in this report say that they don't have a religious affiliation, compared to 20% of Hispanics, only 18% of African Americans or Black Americans, as it says here. I can say, as a member of the African American community, church has always been a central part of the community. It would seem that this phenomenon of leaving affiliation with religion in droves is not unique, but is prevalent in the white community. So since you're the only white person at the table, tell me why that is.
Well, look, I think that white churches have tended to miss the social justice aspect and the communal aspect. A lot of traditional white, either fundamentalist or Protestant mainline churches have tended to focus on individual salvation, whereas the Black church or the Latino church has tended to be much more communal and social justice oriented. And now I actually see young white people starting to follow the African American church in its justice and community orientation, but they're having to leave their white churches to do so. I mean, look at people flooding the streets because Black men, unarmed Black men, are being shot and killed. And they're going out into the streets and they're protesting, and it's because of their faith. It might not be because of their church or their tradition.
You make a very good point there, because
they still hold something there.
Yeah, that's become an issue very common within Black churches. They've taken that up as a social justice cause, as a part of worship. That is just a part of how worship.
White people are finally starting to catch on.
They might like our music too. Jennifer Crumpton, thank you so much. It's very nice to meet you.
Thank you, Debbie.
Appreciate it.